Well, as we expected, the roster movement continues for the West Virginia Mountaineers as a handful of more players have decided to transfer out of the program. Let's talk about it. What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back into the Country Roads Webcast here for this April 11th roster update where we're going to cover the recent roster movement for the WVU football team as we continue to try and track it for you guys as players continue to transfer out of the program. Soon players will be transferring into the program as well. We'll keep you up to date with the roster as it changes throughout the offseason. Of course, we have signees that'll be enrolling over the summer as well. We'll do future roster updates to let you know about those. But this one right here will primarily focus on 5 more players transferring out of the Mountaineer program, bringing the total to 28. We knew these would be coming with West Virginia needing to get that number down to be under the roster limit. So we'll talk about those 5 names and we'll pull up our roster tracker here on the CRW. But before we do that, if you guys would just do me a quick favor, hit that thumbs up button, help us out with the YouTube algorithm. And if you're a WVU football fan and you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. That way you can stay up to date on the West Virginia roster as it's assembled throughout the offseason. And of course, a ton of great content once football season rolls around, and we're keeping you up to date on the basketball roster and staff building on that side as well. Throw your thoughts in the comments on how you feel about any of these departures thus far or how the roster looks at this moment in time here on April 11th. But with no further ado, let's take a look at the 5 names that have transferred out and we'll update them on the roster. All right, so here is the transfer out list, and the 5 that we'll be highlighting on this update, of course, are all defensive backs, actually. One from the nickel position there, Nasai Bell, all the others from the cornerback position. Those names being Mikey Preston, Nasai Bell, Keon Washington, Jacoby Spells, and Jordan Jackson. They make up the now 28 names that have transferred out of the WVU football program. You see him here all listed, but let's pull up our roster, remove these names, and talk about the cornerback position where it stands now. And I think a lot of these names in the secondary, you could probably have expected to experience some attrition, with Rich Rod saying they wanted to add several more in this upcoming portal cycle. So we will remove Nasai Bell's name from the nickel spot here, which leaves you at the nickel Jordy Scruggs, the redshirt senior, Fred Perry, a senior, and Zay Jennings, a sophomore. And I also think that William Davis, currently listed as a safety here on our CRW roster tracker, may play some nickel in the future as well. And then we remove the names of Mikey Preston from the cornerback spot, Jordan Jackson from the cornerback spot, just announced his departure today, which, it was funny. I thought that he stuck it out after his brother transferred last year, Josiah Jackson, but now he decides to do the same. And then we remove redshirt freshman Keon Washington, someone that I thought had good potential, but yet again, this just goes hand in hand with what I've talked about with these new rules. You're kind of losing your developmental players, unfortunately, in favor of, 1 or 2 year mercenary type guys to come in there with a lot more experience. You see as West Virginia has brought in a ton of senior defensive backs, but they are losing one senior defensive back, and Jacoby Spells is the other one, of course, that we're talking about here that we can remove from the cornerback position. Hate to see Mr. Spells go, but of course we'll always have the memory of that nice pick 6 to seal the blowout win over the Hokies in Blacksburg. That was a fun moment that he had throughout his career. Never quite lived up to the potential that we hoped that he would when he was such a high-rated recruit coming in. But West Virginia really doing a lot to try and improve this secondary this offseason. They brought in a ton of pieces. Now they're letting other people transfer out so they can maybe even bring in some more. And so this is what you're looking at here in your secondary. Michael Coates Jr., who I've talked about when he came in, one of our better portal additions, one of the best cornerbacks in the country. Devontae Golden Nelson, a redshirt senior. Derek Carter, a redshirt senior. He played at Jax State. Jason Chambers played at App State under new quarterbacks coach Rod West. Then you have sophomore Keyshawn Robinson still on the roster, and redshirt sophomore Jaden Bell still on the roster to go with the other players. The nickel spot we talked about, and then you brought in a ton at the safety position as well. We'll see what other moves are made in the future here on this roster. Any other players that depart, I'll provide another roster update as I'll scroll through the roster here for you guys to get a look at some of the other positions and the way that they stand currently. Subject to change on all of this. I think West Virginia isn't quite done yet with players that'll transfer out in this cycle before the portal window opens here in about a week's time, and West Virginia may still have some movement, and as that happens, we'll continue to update it here on our CRW roster tracker. But that will do it for the April 11th version of the roster update here. Like I said, be prepared for more of these to come in the near future. I think it's been less than a week or so since the last one. Maybe it's been a few days ago or so. I can't remember. It all runs together anymore. But nonetheless, any other changes that come about, we'll do future roster updates, and I'll continue to do this throughout the offseason, because the one thing you hear in the NIL and transfer portal era is fans say, man, I don't even know who's going to be on the team, when they get to the season opener. Well, if you hit that subscribe button, follow along here to the Country Roads webcast, you'll know what the roster is going to look like every step of the way throughout the offseason as players depart, as players are added as well. We'll continue to cover it here. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button before you head out. Help us out with that crazy YouTube algorithm. Throw your thoughts in the comments as well. How do you feel about any one of these departures? How do you feel about the secondary as it currently stands? And as we scrolled through the roster there, what position stuck out to you that you think West Virginia really needs to add some bodies to here in this next transfer portal window? Anything you got, let us know there in the comments. Always appreciate those interactions here as we try and grow the CRW community throughout Mountaineer Nation. Having said that, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz, and until next time, let's go Mountaineers.